In the last video, you witnessed me lose over $25,000 over one of the most important poker decisions of my life. Today, the very next day, I'm driving from Austin to Houston to buy back in for $15,000 on the Champions Club live stream.
Everyone I give a bottle of water to, I'm expecting to get something in return, right? He's gonna give me $16,135.
Yesterday's loss hurt, but I'm back today with one goal: win back all the money I lost yesterday and book a profit on the weekend. It's gonna be hard, especially when I find myself in multiple tough spots throughout today's session, including trying to pull off one of the biggest bluffs of my life.
He knows he's gonna have to go big.
In just the second hand of the night, Vegas Viet opens it up to 125 and JD calls from the button. I'm next to act out of the small blind and 3-bet pocket jacks to $550, a variation of Cinco de Mayo, baby. There's really no right way to play pocket jacks, but I would prefer a 3-bet over calling out of the small blind. Z-Fish now cold calls from the big blind and we lose Viet and JD, so heads up to a flop out of position. The flop comes 10-7-5 rainbow and I decide to balance in a check here. If I had ace king or king queen, I probably would want to start with a check as well. I have an overpair, it's probably the best hand. I start with a check and Z-Fish checks behind. The turn really shouldn't change anything. It comes the 5 of diamonds. Now I have to get value. If I'm gonna have some bluffs with ace king and king queen, also I have to be betting my jacks for value. So I toss out $1,000 into this $1,300 pot and Z-Fish finds the call. I already thought I had the best hand on the turn, but then we pick up another jack on the river. Bang, we river trips. The only hand we're losing to now is 8-9, and even though it's possible, I think it's pretty unlikely, so I'm gonna go for a tricky line here and check it over to Z-Fish. I'm going for the check shove. I want to get all the chips in the middle, and checking allows an aggressive and fun player like Z-Fish to put money in the middle as a bluff. He takes the bait and fires out for $3,550. That Cinco de Mayo is super contagious, and he caught the bug, tossed out $3,550, and the action's back over to me. I look over at his stack and see that he has just north of $5,000. We're playing for all of it. I go all in and he doesn't snap fold, meaning he didn't have a bluff. He has some sort of value, and after thinking about it for a while, he ends up folding. Let's see what he folded, probably a 1 or 2 pair type of hand. No, he finds an amazing fold with pocket 5s, assuming that I'm not gonna have too many bluffs when I check shove the river. What a great fold from Z-Fish. A lot of players are just gonna call it off here, set over set, but not Z-Fish. Even though we didn't get maximum value, I'm up $5,000 early, and that's exactly what I need if I have any chance of reaching my goal of making a profit on the weekend. 40 hands go by from that last pocket jacks hand to this pocket 4s hand. I open it up to $300 and we get 2 callers going 3 ways to the flop, and we flop a set on an ace 4 6 board. Bang! Oh no, wait, for a second there I thought the second ace was a 4. I still decide to bet out for $450. Ham calls and Colin now check raises to $1,600, causing us both to fold our cards. Unfortunate I couldn't flop a set there, but I still tried to get a little bit of value and got punished by Colin with his king 6 of diamonds. A few hands later, Colin opens it up to $300 and I look down at ace king offsuit from the small blind, mandatory 3-bet incoming. I make it $1,100 and we pick up Z-Fish from the straddle, who cold calls my $1,100 raise, and Colin folds. So a little bit unorthodox here, Z-Fish cold calling the original raiser folding. Still, we are heads up out of position to a flop with Z-Fish once again. The flop comes ace king queen. Bang, we flop top 2. I don't misread the board this time. We're only losing to jack 10. I don't think Z-Fish is gonna have any of the sets. The action goes check check on the flop, bringing in the 8 of clubs on the turn. I decide to go for value and fire out for $850, to which Z-Fish obliges. He puts in the call and we're off to the river. The river comes a queen of hearts, which I don't love because it brings in a lot of hands that can now have me beat. I decide to check it over to Z-Fish. As you saw earlier, he's a pretty aggressive player. He's gonna put more money in the middle a lot of the time. He fires out for $1,800 and I'm definitely not folding. I actually snap call him. I'm not gonna find a raise here on a 2-queen board, and he turns over a hand I did not expect to see, jack 6 offsuit. So you see him make a great fold in that first hand with pocket 5s, and now he's gonna go back to his aggressive ways and try to float me on the turn.
Checking for value. Is Wolfgang. Quick check call.
And bluffed me on the river. Great check there from me. I'm taking down a $7,800 pot for my 2 pair. Ace King, let's go. Booking a win in this last hand has me up around 7 grand now. But if you remember in that last video at the lodge, I lost 27,000, which means I need to make another 20 grand just to get even. Unfortunately, I go card dead for the next 2 hours, and I only play this hand of note during that time. Colin opens a cutoff and I defend the straddle with Jack 10 of spades. We flop ourselves 2 pair on a Jack 5-5 board and call a small bet. The turn goes check check and I bet for value on the river to the tune of 750 bucks. Colin looks me up with pocket sixes, and even though it's not the most eventful hand, no joke, this was the only hand I played in 2 hours, so definitely had to throw it in to show you guys what I'm working with.
Check it enough times, you get some value.
I get asked all the time about online games. If you're looking for action similar to this Champions Club live stream, but from the comfort of your home, message me on Telegram at Wolfgang Poker, and I'll personally message you back to get you set up. I then pick up a premium pocket jacks from the +1 and I open it up to 300. Kamikaze now 3-bets me to 1,000, and instead of 4-betting, I decide just to call. I definitely should mix in some 4-bets here, but I don't blame myself from calling. We are pretty deep after all, around 12 or 13,000 effective. The flop comes 5-5-3 rainbow, and I decide to check call an $1,000 bet. Once again, this is another decision point where I could check raise, trying to get him to call or fold with a hand like ace king, king queen. I'd be going for value with my jacks. I also could get him to call with a hand like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, and just bloat the pot up when I think I have the best hand. But I decide to take the more passive route here and allow him to continue to bluff on some turns and rivers, and I just put in the call. The turn comes a deuce of hearts, which really shouldn't change too much unless he has a hand like ace-4 suited. I check it over to Kamikaze, and he checks behind, bringing in one of the worst cards in the deck, bringing the 4-liner to the straight. It comes the 4 of hearts. Not only that, it allows him to get there with a hand like king 10 of hearts, king queen of hearts, something like that, and I don't even have the jack of hearts in my hand to block those flushes. So I check it over to him once again, and unfortunately he does not check behind. Instead, he bets out for $2,200. The pot has ballooned up to $6,400. If I put in the call, it'll be an $8,600 pot, but at the same time, I just have a bluff catcher. My thought process on the flop was just call and allow him to bluff on some turns and rivers, but this run out isn't exactly what I wanted. Any ace has me beat, and he's gonna have a lot of aces when he bets the flop and checks the turn, so ultimately I decided to fold my cards. I didn't peg Kamikaze on a pretty aggressive player, but it looks like he is when his RFID cards show 8-7 of spades.
Kamikaze gets the fold out of the jacks.
It's like thinking about the sick hero fold.
What a play.
So what a disaster from me there. I couldn't find the bluff catch, and pocket jacks are gonna go down in flames. They were the best hand, but I had to stick $2,200 more in the middle, and I really needed to win this one in order to get closer to my goal of making back that 27K. All right, let's try to pick up some momentum here in hand number 75 of the stream. I need to get it going here. Vegas Fiat opens it up to $250. Hand calls, I call. We got Royal Flesh, Kamikaze, Colin all in the mix. So 6 ways to the flop, and it comes pretty good for us. King, king, deuce, bang. We flop 3 of a kind. Vegas Fiat doesn't slow down on this flop and fires out for $250. Hand calls and I call, bringing us off to a turn which now comes the 6 of spades. He still doesn't slow down and now bets out for $1,100 and the action's on hand. He decides to put in the call, and back over to me. I really don't want to raise here and allow anyone to fold with a flush draw or maybe a worse king.
Weird spot for Wolfgang. Obviously, we know Trip Kings is excellent, but Vegas Fiat could have king queen or ace king.
Additionally, if I raise here, I'm just going to get called by some of those flush draws and then a lot of better kings like king jack, king queen, ace king, maybe king deuce, pocket deuces, pocket sixes. All the more reason to just find the call. Off to a river we go, which comes the ace of clubs, and now Vegas Fiat decides to slow down and check. Hand checks it over to me, and I need to go for value. I decide that the right sizing is super small here in order to get called by a pocket pair or somehow an ace that got there on the river. I fire out for $1,150 super small, and let's turn over both of my opponent's hands, ace jack and ace 4. So both of them make a pair of aces on the river. Am I going to get paid off by one of them? Yes. Vegas Fiat calls, hand folds, and we are taking down a nice sized pot here with 3 of a kind. Bang! Bang, let's go. My stack is now $25,000. I bought in for 15, which means I'm up $10,000. I lost 27,000 in the last video, and I need to bake another 17 grand just to get even. It's time to put my foot on the gas. JD opens it up to $300 from the cutoff, and I look down at king, queen of clubs. It's time to go. I make it $900, which folds out the rest of the table, actions back over to JD. I expect him to either fold or call, but instead he 4-bets me to $2,600, and now my heart is beating. Does he have a better hand like kings or aces? Does he have ace king having me in rough shape? Or is he playing a hand like jacks or tens in a pretty aggressive way and I'm in a flip situation? Well, if I want to make the money, I gotta put in the call. I think a 5-bet would be pretty aggressive and not the right move, so I find the call here, and just like that, we're off to a nice sized pot here in hand number 90. We're playing a $5,400 flop, and JD checks on a 5-4-3 2 spades board. I really would have preferred to see a club, a queen, or a king, but that's not what we're gonna get, and of course I'm gonna check behind. The turn now comes to 5 of hearts, and JD leads out for $2,600. Let's think about it logically here. He 4-bet me pre-flop, checked the flop, and now bets the turn. He easily could have a hand like ace king of hearts. I don't have any heart in my hand to block that, so that's a hand that would bluff on this turn card, and maybe I could find a tricky float here, and if he checks the river, I could go for a bluff. That's what's going through my head here. I want to get creative, and floating with king, queen of clubs is probably not recommended most of the time, but I've played a lot of hands with JD, and I think that he thinks that I'm a pretty snug player, so I decided to float here.
Wolfgang not going anywhere with the king high.
Hoping that he checks the river. This is not advisable, you guys. The river comes a very interesting 6 of hearts, and let's see what JD decides to do. He checks it over to me. If he had a hand like the nut flush or the second nut flush, he probably would have bet it. So when he checks it over to me, I'm gonna go for the bluff, and we gotta toss in $5,550. The only appropriate bet sizing is a 5,000 Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo.
And we're gonna put JD in a tough spot. It's not that large of a bet given the pot size. There was around $10,000 in the middle. Now with my 5,550 in there, there's around 16 grand. So it's a very milky looking bet. I easily could have kings or queens here. That's the hand I'm trying to represent when I check back the flop, call the turn, and then bet the river. At the end of the day, JD can't find the call. He folds his cards. What did he have? Probably ace king.
Nicely done.
The game is afoot.
Wow.
No, he has pocket queens. You're kidding, you guys. I got JD to fold pocket queens. So much for blockers. I'm always saying he can't have kings or queens because I have one of them, but it doesn't completely eliminate it, and you guys saw it here. JD gave me the ultimate respect, and this is a masterclass on how you use your image to your favor. He put me on a better hand here, but JD gave me credit, and that's all that matters. I'm taking down a $16,000 pot in which I deserved none of it. After that amazing stroke of good luck, we go card dead again for quite some time, but in that span, we managed to win a decent sized pot with top pair, scoop $4,000 in a family bomb pot on a full house with 7 deuce, and pick up jacks once again, but this time take it down pre-flop. Hand number 136 starts off with Colin putting the $200 straddle. I'm jacking off from the cutoff and make it $550, and Ham calls me from the button. Actions back around to Colin, who tosses in the additional $350, and just like that, we're in between 2 opponents going 3 ways to the flop in a $2,000 pot. The flop checks through on a 10-10-3 board with 2 hearts, bringing in the jack of hearts on the turn, giving me top pair. Colin checks, I check, and Ham now bets out for $800, and I'm going absolutely nowhere. I decide to put in the call. I don't want to see a heart on the river, and that's exactly what comes when it gives me 2 pair, but it brings in the flush.
Wow. 2 pair for Wolfgang, but gives the nut flush to Ham.
The king of hearts is not a welcome sight. I would have preferred just to have top pair on the turn, but instead of closing my eyes and just checking it over to Ham, I think that I could go for a small bet here of 550 bucks, which accomplishes a lot. It gives me a lot of information. If ham raises, I'm just gonna fold, but I can also get called by worse, like Jack 9, Jack 7, and there's a small chance that this small bet will look really milky to ham, and he might even fold a better hand like a 10x combo. That's a little bit ambitious, but I really like a small bet here, and sure enough, ham now raises me to 2,550, and I'm left with no choice other than to fold my cards. What did he have? Ace Jack offsuit with the ace of hearts. He had me in tough shape on the turn, and just like I said here, looks like that river card saved me. A super fun, action-packed, massive live stream culminated in a win of 17,075 bucks. I lost 26,975 in the Lodge live stream in the last video, bringing my 2-day total to a loss of just south of $10,000. I'm really proud of how I battled back and didn't go on tilt, instead winning $17,000 tonight makes the loss in day 1 that much more manageable. If you guys like these massive buy-in live stream games, I've played a bunch of them. There's a few on your screen right now. Click one of those to keep on watching. Good luck on the felt, you guys. I hope you win all the money, and as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!